Hi, welcome to Edward Box Guitar Tuition. So my classic album inspection today is Night of the Crime by Icon. This was released September 20th, 1985. It's 40 years old today. So remember when this album came out, it got 5 stars in Kerrang. Forget which reviewer it was, and maybe Derek Oliver, Dave Reynolds, someone like that. And they absolutely raved about it. And I managed to pick up a vinyl copy in a second-hand shop in Newcastle called Pet Sounds, I think it was. Near the Central Station, if people remember that. I really liked the album, and then I think I sold it, and actually I got the next album after that, Right Between the Eyes, and I had a look for the debut album and I never found that. Later on I sold it, and then when it got reissued by Rock Candy on CD, I thought, I'll get that again and have a listen. So I've got a few sort of pointers about this album, really. I think a lot of people call it one of the greatest AOR albums ever made, but I don't totally subscribe to the fact that it's AOR. It's got some AOR songs, which we'll look at. But when it rocks out heavier, it's just more in line with what's going on at that time in LA, metal and beyond. So, like Rat, Dokken, Black and Blue, Rough Cut. It's more of that ilk. Let's dive into it. So it's produced by Eddie Kramer, but I think importantly it's mixed by Ron Neverson. He's got assistant engineer Mike Klink on it as well, and Dan Wexler, the guitarist of Icon, who's obviously very handy. He was an assistant and mixer as well. Back then, mixing, it needed all hands on deck, so that may be why Dan Wexler's got a credit there. He might have been doing some extra twirling, but Neverson, I've never really rated Eddie Kramer as a producer. I don't think he harnesses great sound sometimes. So I think Ron Neverson pulls this together. He gets a really good drum sound. He's sharpened that up somehow. Maybe he's used a sample. The guitars are quite kind of squelchy, a little bit fizzy, but quite nice, and he's managed to kind of sit them in the mix well. The original Icon album, the debut, has got that kind of heavy chainsaw metal guitar sound that you hear on Tooth and Nail by Dokken or Shout the Devil by Motley Crue, and sort of independent releases of the sort of power metal, US power metal ilk. And that all kind of gets smoothed out when bands get more of a radio sound like Rat and so on. So the album opens up with Naked Eyes. Just look at my notes there. So this is AOR track. This is written by Bob Halligan Jr. and John Aquilino, the one of the other guitarists to Dan Wexler. So I'm not actually that keen on this track. It's kind of thrown a Mickey Finn, really. It's kind of opening with a typical sort of AOR rocker track, and if the rest of the album was like that, you'd think that was sort of the band's wheelhouse, so to speak. And that continues with Missing. It's another Bob Halligan track, just written by his own. So for those, if you're not familiar with Bob Halligan, or Bob Halligan Jr. as he's known, he wrote tracks for Judas Priest. I sometimes wonder what the demos are like. When bands wanted a kind of single and didn't sort of have an idea, called Bob Halligan Jr. He wrote Some Heads Are Gonna Roll and Take These Chains, Judas Priest. I'm not sure what his other credits are, but it's Twist by Rob Halford as well. But he has got an ear for a tune. So Missing, this is better. It's got a nice chorus on this. Strong vocal by Stephen Clifford, and it's a little more rockier. So it's kind of like more like the album starting properly. Next track, now this is heavier, it's up tempo, this is really good. This is more up my street, this is Danger Calling. Should just say the first two tracks are 4 minutes, 4:30, this is 3:39, so very much keeping within the expectation of the lengths of songs that you'd have then for albums that you may want to break into the mainstream. You want just songs that you can release as singles. This is really good. It's got a really good hook, good harmony guitars on this. So both guitarists are good. They do good trade-off solos. They've got that KK and Glenn thing. Dan Wexler, he goes on Glenn's side, and he's got like sort of shocking blonde hair. He kind of didn't have that later on. John Aquilino's got kind of dark hair. I think he wears a bit of lipstick. He has a spikier guitar, I think. I think I pronounced his name right there. Apologies if I haven't. But yeah, this is a good track. So they use the harmony guitars throughout the album and trade-offs and mixing guitar parts to create good hooks, really. There you got Shot in My Heart. Again, this is a little more commercial, but again, it's pretty rocky. Good harmony guitars, good riffing. It's got a nice sort of clean intro, probably using a Rockman, I'd imagine. There's quite a lot of use of clean guitar buried in the mix. And sometimes they would call Queensryche, on some of the heavier riffs, if you took one of those riffs and put Jeff Tate over it and with those track clean sounds, and it wouldn't be dissimilar to what you might hear on The Morning at times or Rage for Order. They got Out for Blood, so this starts off with a cool instrumental Nice sort of harmony melodies over keyboards with a wee 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 wee, sort of a bit of a, and then it goes into a tapping bit. I don't know which guitarist is doing. I don't know if it's Wexler or the other guy, but you've got a kind of counter harmony line going on. It's good. There's nothing groundbreaking about the tapping. It's just the sort of thing Van Halen or Randy Rhoads would do. It is nicely done. And that's 5:40, so this track's longer, but the instrumental part of the intro is 2 minutes long anyway. So aside when it takes a while to get going, it gets better with Missing, and then those 3 tracks that finish off are really good. So side 2 opens with Raise the Hammer. This is a really good dun, 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 a slow kind of gallop a la Dio. Really good. It's got that kind of James Bond riffage where you've got the 5th, then moving to the minor 6th, then to the major 6th. If you play guitar, you know what I mean. A good catchy chorus, and it's got a hammer sound in it, which is important. So I really like this. Then it goes AOR again with Frozen Tears. It's a good ballad, but it is just a bit drippy. It's kind of more getting into foreigner territory. Then things rock up again for The Whites of Their Eyes. It's quite interesting. This has got a kind of clean part after the solo. You can hear that sort of sitting in the track. 3 minutes 43 is good. Hungry for Love's next. That's a kind of mix between a rocker and a bit of AOR ballad, but it works well. Again, you've got clean guitars tracked in. I think one little fault with these 2 tracks, are both in D minor. I think they've both got kind of similar riffs around the D5 chord, moving to the 3rd fret on the G string and the B string, a typical sort of Reich type thing. And they've both got the clean guitars tracked in as well. But good harmony guitars again on that, good trade-offs. Then the album finishes with Rock My Radio. This is actually co-written with Mike Varney. So originally Icon recorded an album for Shrapnel, I think. I think then Capitol picked it up and then it got remixed. So Mike Varney was involved with them. He might have the production credit on the first album. If you're interested, the first album is good. There's actually a promo video for one of the tracks off that. Again, it's catchy. It's heavier. It's got heavier sort of chainsaw sounding guitars, and it is good. Like I said, they know how to write songs. The 2 guitarists and the singer, know how to put a tune together. Although they have got outside writers on this. Rock My Radio is really good. It's got big stacked harmonies on the chorus. Really cool twin parts. One of the guitars is just rolling 16, zicka digga 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 digga, and then the other guitar's playing power chords, a bit like Rat would do. So again, touching bass with that time. So 41 minutes long. Overall, I give this album a 7 or an 8 out of 10. I'm not a 5-star man on it, but I do think it's a good record. Why? There's always that classic thing. Why weren't Icon huge? People love this. Oh, they should have been massive. You get that thing. It's all a matter of timing, really. I think for these bands, I think by the time Icon came out, Rat, Motley Crue, Dokken had already broken cover. When you look at pictures of them, they don't. It's difficult. You've got to stand out in the MTV era. Icon, they don't have a very good stylist. If you watch the video they did, they've got some dodgy outfits, and Dan Wexler's hair is a shocking blonde. But it's difficult to tell who the singer is. When you see a picture, they don't have sort of defined personalities. Kind of like Malice in that way as well. They look quite similar. Malice are another band who kind of suffered from this a little bit, I think. A good band playing some really cool songs. But it didn't quite happen. I think Capitol don't have a great track record with heavier bands, and I think they got buried on this album. They're probably there and are changed. So it didn't sell, even though it had really good reviews, although it did do some touring. I think the songs that are playing there, they've definitely got something. It's just you could go and go to another band like a Rat or a Dokken and go and get sort of a similar thing. You got to remember, in the days of the LA metal and scene and beyond, I mean, Icon are from Arizona, but they kind of feel like an LA type of band. There's bands like Black and Blue did 4 albums and never had a hit album. Rough Cut didn't have a hit album. I think they did 3 or 4, and so on. So for every Rat or Dokken or Motley Crue, there's lots of other bands that didn't. One thing I think that happens with bands, like a Van Halen, if you've got a 4-piece band, it's easy to construct individual imagery for each band member. If you think about Motley Crue, it works really well. And when it comes to videos, it becomes easily identifiable, their kind of brand and look that goes with the song. I think it's harder for a band like Icon to stand out. Just my theory anyway. After this album, they had a 4-year break because I lost the deal. I wrote songs, actually wrote 30 songs for this album, and then I did Right Between the Eyes album, or was it Between the Eyes? With a guy called Jerry Harrison on vocals, who's good. And Stephen Clifford's a good vocalist. Again, I'm not sure he kind of stands out individually, and neither does Jerry Harrison to me. But they are good singers. They've got good vocal ranges. Again, the musicianship's very good. So it's a case of a band being there or thereabouts, but just the timing being off, and like maybe just not quite enough to stand out. I know there's people who disagree with this because there's people who think this album's absolute dog's bollocks. I do think it's really good. I enjoy it. It's just not, I don't think it's out and out kind of classic, cult classic as some people think, but that's just my viewpoint. But yeah, check it out. It's well worth checking out. Check out the Icon debut, Night of the Crime, and Between the Eyes. They're all worth checking out. An interesting band, a kind of footnote in that era of metal. Along with other bands, like I said, the aforementioned bands, a band like Lion as well, another band who did a great debut for a major label, and so on. Okay, remember, share and subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Thanks very much.